We thank the DDA Commission, Professor Zhao Yuyong and Professor Gang Feng for arranging this, and also Professor Jian Zhao to be involved in the background. And it's very nice. And as you see, we're all here to honor the late Professor Goodman, who has been a great
石老师能听见我吧？
who has been a great inspiration for all of us. And we have a schedule for this meeting. And in the opening session, we will hear from three important people: the president of the ISRM, the president of the Chinese Society of Rock Mechanics, and then the DDA, the ISRM DDA Commission president. And if it's okay, we can start with the presentation of Professor John, Shikuan John, the president of ISRM.
Hi, everyone. It is with great sadness to receive the news of the passing of Professor Richard Goodman. On behalf of ISRM, I honor the memory of Professor Goodman and extend my deepest condolences to his family, friends, loved ones, members of the ISRM Commission on DDA, and more broadly to the members of ALMA and ISRM. His immense contributions to rock mechanics and geological engineering have greatly influenced our field, and his work has guided and inspired many professionals around the world. Professor Goodman's research, including block theory, the DDA method, and the Goodman jack, has been groundbreaking. Beyond his innovations, he was a dedicated teacher and mentor who shaped the careers of many students, leaving a lasting impact on our community. We will remember him and his legacy that will continue to influence and inspire future generations. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Nicholas Sitar for thoughtfully preparing our obituary and ISRM Commission on DDA for holding this memorable event for Professor Goodman. I'm sorry that I sent this video recording instead of attending online. I hope this will be a meaningful time to remember Professor Goodman's achievements and teachings and to reflect on memories we shared with him. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for the video of the president of the ISRM. And now we will hear another video from Professor Hemin Chao, the president of the Chinese Society for Rock Mechanics. Thank you.
Dear guests, colleagues in the field of rock mechanics and engineering, ladies and gentlemen, today we gather here with heavy hearts to mourn the passing of a titan in the field of rock mechanics and engineering. Professor Goodman. His departure is not only tremendous loss to our academic community, but also deeply regrettable moment in the history of the global rock mechanics and engineering. On behalf of the Chinese Society of Rock Mechanics and Engineering, I extend our deepest condolences to Professor Goodman's family and express our shared sorrow to all those grieving his loss. Professor Goodman was a true scholar and mentor whose academic achievements were as solid as rock itself, with a profound and far-reaching impact. He is regarded the discontinuous deformation analysis as one of his proudest contributions, tirelessly advocating its development and application. His introduction of the Goodman element in the finite element method enabled the analysis of discontinuous matter, while his collaboration with Mr. Shi Genhua on the key block theory provide a robust framework for solving practical engineering problems. It was under his visionary guidance that Mr. Shi Genhua advanced DDA into powerful tool, now widely recognized for its precision and versatility in numerical simulation. Inspired by Professor Goodman's call, the Chinese Society of Rock Mechanics and Engineering is committed to carrying forward his legacy by vigorously promoting DDA's application in addressing geological disasters and advancing internal engineering. His effort not only honors Goodman's foresight, but also highlights the remarkable contributions of those he mentored, whose work continues to elevate our field and merits the highest recognition, such as the Pritzker-Müller Award. As a member of the China University of Mining and Technology, I had the privilege of hosting Professor Goodman during his visit to our university in May 2016, and engaging in in-depth discussions with him. During that visit, he not only brought cutting-edge international academic perspectives, but also offered valuable suggestions tailored to specific challenges in China mining engineering. His rigorous approach and profound knowledge left a lasting impression on me. That exchange was not only a significant moment in our university's academic development, but also a testament to the deepening friendship between Professor Goodman and the Chinese rock mechanics community. He traveled thousands of miles to China on multiple occasions, visit engineering sites and sharing his expertise and visitors, whether it was large-scale infrastructure projects or engineering challenges. Under complex geological conditions, he offered his guidance and support without reservations. We are profoundly grateful for his affection for China and selfless dedications to the advancement of the Chinese rock mechanics. His presence and voice seems to linger still in the work sites and meeting rooms he once graced. Today, together with the International Society for Rock Mechanics, we hold this memorable event not only to honor Professor Goodman's remarkable contributions, but also to carry forward the spiritual legacy his left, his relentless pursuit of science, his rigorous approach to engineering, and his unwavering commitment to human well-being. As a member of the Chinese Society for Rock Mechanics and Engineering, I call upon us all to take Professor Goodman as an example to continue advancing the discipline of rock mechanics and engineering, and to contribute to solving global engineering challenges. In closing, let us once again pay our highest respect to Professor Goodman. His name will forever be etched in the annals of rock mechanics, and his spirit will continue to inspire us onward. May he rest in peace. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you very much for this important video of Professor Herman Chow. It's very moving to hear how much appreciation Professor Goodman had among the top professionals in China, including also the students and the younger members. But it's impressive to see the incredible respect that Professor Goodman has. And so we move on to our next speaker, the president of the DDA Commission, ISRM DDA Commission, Professor Jiao Yuyong.
Thank you, Yossi, and dear Professor Shi, Professor Zhao, and Professor Zhou, family member of DDA Commission, and dear colleagues of friends and Professor Richard Goodman. It's with profound sorrow and deep respect that we gather online today to honor a giant of rock mechanics and a visionary whose work has left an indelible mark on our field. As the co-chair of the DDA Commission of the International Society for Rock Mechanics and Rock Engineering, and a professor at Sun Yat-sen University, I sit here humbled, reflecting on the legacy of the man who bridged continents, disciplines, and generations through his brilliance and compassion. Professor Goodman was not merely a scholar. He was a pioneer who transformed how we interact with the earth. His seminal contributions, such as K-block theory and the foundational text Methods of Geological Engineering in Discontinuous Rocks, redefined geological engineering and became the bedrock of modern discontinuous deformation analysis. At UC Berkeley, his work inspired countless students and colleagues to see the Earth's fractures not as obstacles, but as narratives waiting to be deciphered. His collaborations here, from advancing rock stability models to monitoring fracture leaders, exemplify the spirit of innovation, a legacy that continues to shape infrastructure projects worldwide, from tunnels in the Alps to dams in Asia. Yet, beyond his technical genius, Richard was a teacher who embodied humility. His nurtured curiosity often came late in laboratories or field sites to guide students, blending rigorous science with poetic insights. His former students, now leading institutions globally, carry forward his brief belief that every geological challenge is a dialogue between humanity, and nature. To his family, we extend our deepest condolences. Richard's legacy is now defined to equation, but lives in the life he uplifted. His dedication to collaboration, mirrored in Berkeley's tradition of interdisciplinary excellence, reminds us that science thrives when we unite across borders. Today, as we mourn, let's also celebrate his vision. May we honor him by advancing his mission to listen to the Earth's stories and build a safer, more sustainable world. In closing, let us ensure Richard's name endures, whether through scholarships, collaborative joint grants, or simply by embodying his relentless curiosity. Rest in peace, dear Richard. Your wisdom, like the bedrock you studied, will forever anchor our discipline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jiao. Again, it's a very moving speech and very heartfelt. And again, it's impressive to hear the deep appreciation of Professor Goodman by this commission. And now we move on to the second part of the meeting, where we'll have three former PhD students of Professor Goodman talk. And we begin with our leader, Dr. Shigenwa, that is going to give us a speech about Professor Goodman.
Okay, now?
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Dear Yoshi, dear Professor Jian Zhao, dear Professor Zhou, dear Professor Wai Qing, dear Professor Yang, and everybody. So I only to say this is a great meeting. This is a great memory of the contribution of the great scholar, great engineer, great artist. Also, he is personally is my great professor and advisor. So we want to his all the influence, his engineering contribution to the make the whole world rocket engineering to be safe, give people bring more safety and more success. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Professor Yoshihatsu.
Oh, thank you very much, Genwa. This was very brief, but very moving and touching. And every word is very true. So, according to the schedule, it's now my turn. I prepared a short presentation on Professor Goodman. It will be very short. Everybody can see the presentation okay? So this is a meeting we did 10 years ago in 2015 in a resort along the Pacific coast to honor his 80th birthday. So he passed away exactly reaching 90, a very advanced age. And the people that you see in this picture are all his students, or some of them are just collaborators, like Professor Nick Sitar from UC Berkeley and Professor Stephen Glazer from UC Berkeley and Professor Wai Ching from the Yangtze River Institute. These are collaborators. The rest that I can see here are all his students, including Professor Derek Ellsworth. And there's also here Professor Bernard Amadei. So these are two very big personalities in the rock mechanics communities, and Joe Curran. And I will not go through every one of them, Professor Shih, Tom Doe, Duncan Wiley, that is some of you may have heard of. And so you see that he has cultivated a great group of scientists, engineers that proceed in his footsteps. He loved his students and colleagues here's with Nick Sitar and Joe Curran. He was always very intimate in his connection, in his relationship with his students and his colleagues. Always wanted to know what was going on, had a lot of wit, always laughing, making jokes. Of course, he loved his family very much. He had 3 daughters and wife Sue, that they were very good couple for many, many years. And they hosted, while I was in Berkeley, I know I experienced that. They hosted in their house events for the graduate students. And it was like an open house. Every now and then we would have meetings there and barbecue and things like that. So like a family. You know about his love to music. In fact, it was first of all a musician, meaning he studied in the high school music, not for high school. He in fact went to study music, and then the other studies he had a personal tutor come and teach him at home. That's when he lived in New York. And then of course he went to the university and excelled. But music was really his passion. And later he developed this to opera and became an opera singer and the leader of the Berkeley Opera. So that is that aspect of his life, the artistic part. And he was a very great man to talk to. This is Warasik, Dr. Wolfgang Warasik, talking to him on an ARMA meeting, Dr. Shih. So he's very nice to interact with, always very interested in what everyone has to say. He really loved working in the field. I wanted to say in the first version of this, I said, but most of all, he liked working in the field. But I didn't want to say most of all because he loved his family very much. So how can I say most of all? But I think after his family is the field. He loved to work in the field. So this is an example when he came to visit me in Israel for some 10 days in various sites in the different parts of the country, always exploring the interesting geology there. This is with a colleague explaining the structure of the Sinai Desert and so on and so forth. As for his contributions, I will not, of course, there's no way I can repeat and explain all his contributions to rock mechanics, but I just wanted to point out that when he worked with Professor Harry Seed on his doctorate at Berkeley, he developed this solution for the degradation of friction with cycles of earthquake motion for a block on an inclined plane. And now everybody calls that the Newmark method, but in fact, when somebody asked him in a lecture, oh, you mean the Newmark method? He says, well, you can call it that, meaning that really that paper came out earlier, I think, or maybe at the same time. But anyways, that was his procedure to implement into the solution a degradation of the friction. And then, of course, the peak acceleration required for sliding goes down with the cycles. And he also provided this solution from the transfer from displacement to velocity and acceleration. He also was an experimentalist, working also with Professor Onishi when he was getting his PhD there on direct shear. And his most important contributions is the significance of roughness to the shear resistance of the surface. And he discussed the importance of the boundary conditions if it's going to be a fixed constant normal stress as typically is done, or constant normal position, or even constant normal stiffness. So he was aware of all these things that later were developed to complex experimental procedures very early on, like a prophet. And as for the book that was mentioned, Methods of Geological Engineering, I also think this is maybe his. I don't want to rank the books, but it's a super important book, and I learned it very deeply. And in that book, he lays the foundation to what later became key block theory that Dr. Shi developed together with the Goodman. But you can see already how he was very far ahead. I mean, this was done, this three-dimensional limit equilibrium analysis was already done by Dick. He realized that he doesn't have the advanced mathematical background that Dr. Shi has, so he couldn't formulate all the topology that is necessary for block theory. That is understood, but he had the intuition, and he was almost there by himself. I think Genwa will agree with me on that. And then, of course, in the same book, he lays the foundation for the joint element that people are using to implement in the finite elements. And that was also what inspired Genwa to develop the DDA method all by himself. So these are two very extremely important contributions for rock mechanics. Number one, in the limit equilibrium static analysis, and then, of course, DDA and enabling us to do some dynamic analysis. And earlier, he worked in the Imperial College with Dr. John Bray and provided a solution for toppling that did not exist before. Very nice. And people are still exploring this and still publishing papers on this and changing this and that. But basically, the foundations were laid out by Professor Goodman. And there's the base friction machine that he developed, which you pull on a conveyor belt and underneath a sandbox and do the friction. You see the deformation. You can open a tunnel and see the blocks you cut blocks and you see everything moving. So that opened the eyes for the kinematics of block deformation. And it's a physical model that goes hand in hand with the numerical models, primarily DDA. Of course, he has many more contributions, which I will not discuss. And just to share with you one lesson, that's when I was working with him in the field. While I was getting my PhD there, we went on many consulting jobs. He took me. And one time we worked in a place called Pacoima Dam that was, they wanted to fix it for overtopping, and he climbed the mountain and went up and up and up. He went very, very high. I was a bit worried for him, and I asked him, why do you make all this effort? And he said, the truth is somewhere in the mountain up there. So it's really, the truth is in the mountain up there. So the field reality, we should never forget the field reality. We do numerical analysis. You do, guys. I now back in the lab, but the reality is in the field, and we have to respect and honor what the field has to teach us. So thank you all very much for listening, and we all wish for him to rest in peace, and we all thank him for everything he gave us. And now we move on, and I understand that Professor Nishi couldn't attend in person, and so Gaofeng prepared a video.
Under his guidance, I was fortunate enough to earn both my master's and doctoral degrees at the University of California, Berkeley. After working for some time at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, LBL, I secured a position as an assistant professor at my alma mater, Kyoto University. Throughout the years, Prof. Goodman and I maintained close contact, and I frequently visited his lab at Berkeley. During these visits, we exchanged ideas not only about research, but also on personal matters. It was during one of these visits that I had the privilege of meeting the renowned Dr. Genhua Shi, with whom I later collaborated on several research projects, including DDA and manifold method. Professor Goodman was a man of extraordinary talents, as many of you know well. Beyond his expertise in rock mechanics and engineering, he had a deep passion for classical music and even showcased his exceptional talent as an opera singer. My wife, who is an aspiring opera singer, always cherished her conversations with him. The memories of Professor Goodman are endless. He approached each of us students with profound insight and a genuine passion for scholarship, always guiding us with warmth and rigor. His teachings went far beyond the mere transfer of knowledge. They inspired curiosity, critical thinking, and a lifelong love for learning. Many of us fondly remember how his sharp insights, coupled with his humor, opened our minds to new discoveries. Professor Goodman nurtured countless brilliant researchers, many of whom have gone on to become distinguished professors at universities around the world. He was truly a great mentor whose quick thinking, foresight, and keen insight were remarkable. I have no doubt that many of his students will continue to achieve groundbreaking research outcomes, carrying forward his legacy for generations to come. Rather than simply mourning his passing, I believe we should honor his memory by striving to take the next step in our own work and by continuing to contribute to the field he loved so dearly. Finally, I would like to express my heartfelt condolences to Prof. Goodman's family and loved ones. We are deeply grateful for his achievements, compassion, and the indelible mark he left on all of us. May he rest in eternal peace, embraced by the warmth of the countless lives he touched.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Go-Feng, for doing this.
Yeah.
And it's really too bad that Professor Nishi couldn't join us. But this video gives us the feel for what Professor Nishi felt about Professor Goodman, his mentor. And this concludes the part of the students, of the PhD students of Goodman. And we would like to open this up for the broader community. And we start with Professor Jian Zhao of Monash University to say a few things.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, all. Or good morning on most of the people around. Now, thank you for organizing these events, and thank you, Yusuf and Yong, give me the opportunity to express my appreciation to Professor Goodman for his great contribution to our community. Now, I first met Professor Goodman was probably in 1986 at Imperial College in London. I was in my late year of PhD, doing my experimental work under Professor Ted Brown. As you probably heard from Yusuf, that Professor Goodman was quite close to Imperial College in the 70s and 80s, and he worked with Dr. John Bray there on slope stability and the base pressure apparatus. So in that visit in 1986, Professor Goodman gave a presentation to the rock mechanics group at Imperial College. Ted Brown was not there, unfortunately, so he was introduced by Dr. John Harrison. And that particular presentation, for me, is the very first time that I learned about key block theory. Of course, I met Professor Goodman, and also knew Genhua Shi by the name and by his story. In fact, Professor Goodman spent quite a bit of time introducing Genhua and his background and the work they've done together on key block theory. My PhD was on the experiment side, so I knew rather little then about rock mechanics theory then, and the key block theory therefore was totally new to me. So I was very excited, all of us at Imperial College, the PhD students are very excited and interested in the theory. And we had loads of questions. In fact, the discussion went on and on and on. John Harrison had to forcefully stop us, say, look, that's enough. You have to give Professor Goodman a break. You guys are having too many questions. And that was probably one of the most exciting and elevated seminars I attended in my memory. It was really exciting, really stimulating. And today, I think it's great to see that Professor Goodman's team, through his past PhD students, that we still kept local mechanics community stimulated, from the key block theory to DDA to numerical manifold, and of course, through the work done by the ISRM DDA Commission. I must say sorry to all of you guys because I don't claim myself as a numerical guy, unfortunately. I do work with modeling, but I'm probably more on the side of using rather than getting to the programming or the theories, as many of you guys doing. The most cited work from me, of Goodman's work was the joint stiffness model. In fact, in my PhD thesis, I used his hyperbolic joint stiffness equation that was outlined in his well-known book of 1976, Method of Geological Engineering in Discontinuous Rocks, mentioned already by Yusuf. Now, in my view, Professor Goodman is one of those outstanding individuals who made their marks on this world. He left us with his Goodman joint elements, the key block theories, and many others. What I admire him more is that his data is much, much bigger and wider. You already heard from Genhua, Yosef, and Professor Onishi that they talk about his music and opera passions. That I heard of already a few times from Genhua and many others, how Professor Goodman was enjoying or passion in the music side and opera singing. I, unfortunately, not close enough to experience that personally, but I felt his passion when I read his book on Tazaki, in fact. The book on Tazaki called The Engineer as an Artist. I can't imagine anyone can write a better bibliography of Tazaki than Professor Goodman. I believe also Professor Goodman felt he had this kind of a responsibility and a passion to keep or to continue the historical heritage of this discipline, the geodisciplines, engineering geology, rock mechanics, and soil mechanics. In fact, if you look into the life of Tazaki, his work starts from engineering geology to rock mechanics, then finally to soil mechanics. In that book, Tazaki was reviewed as a man with keen passion for science, engineering, as well as arts, literature, and music. That indeed is also a reflection of Professor Dick Goodman. Thank you. And I think we all know that we really want to appreciate his work and his contribution and his inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Chao. Indeed, it hasn't been emphasized enough the time he spent at Imperial College with all his connections there. I think it affected him very much. Imperial College, at the time you were lucky enough to be there at that time too, was a very strong place for rock mechanics with giants walking around there. And then they dispersed all over the world. But Professor Goodman admired the people there and the atmosphere and the engineering and science that was done there. So it was very good to hear your view on that and how it affected your work. Yeah.
Indeed.
And he also could connect with everybody, not only, of course, numerical guys. And he was very much like you say, also he used those methods. He didn't really develop the software by himself because he had this broad view and wanted to do many things. So thank you very much. And we move on to Professor Wang, Shu Hong Wang from Northeastern University. Please.
Hello, thanks, Professor Yosef and the Chairman. And I'm here in memory for the Goodman. So we are together to share with some moment with the Professor Goodman in China. Yeah, maybe in 2016, Goodman is invited to visit Shenyang or introduce about the block 0 at the university. I remember for the Goodman, his working is very excellent and introduce about the academic to many conditions to the Los Angeles University. And in the 2020 and 16 in the April, the international renowned expert in the rock mechanics and engineering geology. So member of the USA about the national academic engineering and the professor at the university from California and Berkeley. And Richard Goodman and along with a lot about mathematics and mechanism and working together with Genhua Shi and with our university. Up to the invitation, the publication in the Los University is from on rock mechanics and delivered special lectures. So Professor Goodman, his active visiting to our university is good remember for our young professor and our students. And during his visiting, we can deep to discuss about the key blockers and Goodman's academic to our university and give the lectures and guide our laboratory and to support for the young students to attend the meetings. And too many thanks to President Genhua Shi and to give the good guide and introduce. And in Shenyang, Goodman can talk about the music and about the mount and in the field to the visit. So it's a good remember for us. And Genhua has remained the close academic collaboration with our university and bring Professor Goodman's academic physics and his zero into the field for the rock mechanics and the Los Angeles University. So during that time, we have got the member and to many contribution to us. And as the professor, the Wenming professor, Renmin Li, and during the opinion of who is introduced the rock mechanics to China. And Genhua has given the good comments. She is the opinion of who intention work rock mechanics in China and the instability of a world-renowned rock mechanics team. And the profound conclusion on the passes of the Professor Ni Renmei and proposed the Goodman and the Genhua Shi to have the prevention in the future in the development of the rock mechanics and the discipline and the Los Angeles University. And as the president students, our Professor Xia Dingfeng, he is the president of the Los Angeles University and the academic of the Chinese Academic Engineering and the president of the International Society for Rock Mechanics and Rock Engineering As others is about the under the guidance of the Goodman and the Goodman. So in our team, we have become the in English research the force in the China for the three major zeros. The first is about the big block zeros. So during their guide, we are team have developing the about the picky blockers. The second is about the discontinuous the deformation analysis. This is ECS workers is from the DDA, and so for the engineering fractures, the mechanicals from these 2 years. And another is numerical method. These workers is found in my group and about 3 students for PhD for the engineering analysis with a boundaries element in this year. And this worker is have the publication in the computer and geotechnical. Yeah. So for the we are good member, the Professor Goodman and his academic connection with our university. So in here, I will thank everyone and thanks everyone to help us to developing and the in members happy to every professor, every colleges from the international, and we are here to give the good remember and hope everyone enjoy the love, enjoy the life. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Professor Wang. We had a request from Professor Ki-Bok Min to say a few things as Vice President of the ISRM. Please, Professor Min.
Hello. Hi, I'm Ki-Bok Min. I just want to thank the ISRM DDA Commission to hosting this. And personally, I haven't had a personal relationship with Professor Richard Goodman, but I had the pleasure of working with many of his former PhD students. And I just want to mention he produced 2 excellent ISRM Rocha medalists, including Derek Ellsworth and Bernard Amadei. And his former students are having an immense influence and contribution to round mechanics work. His textbooks were mentioned, and I just want to mention again a few books that was not mentioned actually. One is Introduction to Round Mechanics, which I still use it for my course, and a lot of good exercise book and very clear explanation. Another book that I want to mention is Engineering Geology. That's rock in engineering construction. Through his book, he really showed his great knowledge in geology, his skill to combine geology with engineering construction. So I learned from yourself that he liked field, and that's no wonder. He is the one who didn't just stay in the theory, tried to combine this theory with actual problems in the field. So that's something I want to emphasize. And Björn mentioned his book on Carl Terzaghi, which he wrote when he was in NGI. And he explained, Carl Terzaghi is the guy who, in the biography, actually, I read the book when I was a graduate student. And there are many personal stories about him, about Carl Terzaghi, but also his knowledge, not only in soil mechanics, but also in geology as well. So, and I saw that Richard Goodman was a very good writer, delivering some message. And the title of the Carl Terzaghi's biography was The Engineer as Artist. The Engineer as Artist. I truly believe that title, Richard Goodman, deserved the title, The Engineer as Artist and Writer. Thank you. And my deep condolences to Prof. Richard Goodman. Thank you for DDA Commission for hosting this memorial event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ki-Bok Min. So that concludes the formal part